everybody again. I've been asked by several people about my gear that I'm going to be using on the Appalachian Trail thru hike. So I thought I'd do a video on my big three, my tent, my sleeping system, and my backpack. So I'll show you my old original setup, and I'll show you my new setup that I'm going to be using on the Appalachian Trail thru hike this year. It's lighter than my original setup. Of course, everything's about weight when you're about to tread 2,000 or 2 million steps on the Appalachian Trail, 2,200 miles on the trail. You want to be as light as possible. So in that regard, I've tried to lighten up my gear as much as I can. Stay tuned. To show you my setup. You've seen me setting it up yesterday in about a 20-mile-an-hour wind, so now I'll give you a little closer look at my original setup compared to my new setup for my thru hike. Here is my original tent, which is the Fly Creek 2, Big Agnes Fly Creek 2 two-person UL tent. It took me about 8 minutes to set it up there yesterday, and it took me only about 6 minutes to put up the Gossamer gear, the one. This is two-person freestanding. It's got the frame to hold it up, as opposed to the Gossamer gear having your trekking poles holding the tent up. It's a double wall tent, so there's less chance of condensation. Also, you can remove the rain fly so that you can see the sky, see the stars at night if there's no chance of rain. The entrance is on the end, which is one of the things that's kind of a pain to crawl out of it on the end, as opposed to the Gossamer gear, which is a side entry. You're real close to crawling out the side. The vestibule on the Gossamer gear is a little bit smaller, not much smaller, but a little bit smaller than what's on the Big Agnes Fly Creek 2. The weight, trail weight for my Big Agnes Fly Creek 2 was a 2-pound 8-ounce carry with, that's including the Tyvek ground cover. Now on the Gossamer Gear 1, it's a single person, obviously. uses trekking poles, as I said, to set up. It's single wall, so you can get some condensation in it. I slept in it a few times where it frosted on the outside, and I did have a little bit of frost on the inside with a little dampness coming off the inside ceiling. The trail weight on the Gossamer gear, the one, is 1 pound 9.5 ounces. That's with the ground sheet that I carry, which is a Tyvek ground sheet. So it's about 15 ounces lighter to carry. It's got a quicker setup, as you've seen in my setup video, a couple minutes, and it takes up a lot less space. So if you're looking for set up your tent and it's crowded, or you can find a place easier in between trees or in between rocks, it's easier to find a spot to set it up than the bigger two-man tent. Then on the inside, my original setup, Thermarest Neo Air X Lite sleeping pad. It's 2.5 inches thick, weighs 12 ounces with an R value of 4.2. It's about $40 more than my setup that I'm using now, which is the Nemo Tensor. The Nemo Tensor Insulated has an R value of 3.5, weighs about 7 ounces more, and which is 19 ounces, and comes with a pump sack to inflate it, which I really like. It's a wider sleeping pad. I seem to stay on it better than I did with the Thermarest. It's quite a bit. It's narrower, 5 inches narrower than the Tensor, and so I don't find myself coming off of the Tensor as much. My original sleeping bag was a Mountain Hardwear Lamina mummy bag, 35-degree bag, and I changed that over. In a mummy bag, I felt constricted. I'm a side sleeper, so I like to have a little movement and be able to put your leg out or arm out. So I switched over to a UGQ Bandit quilt. It's got a sewn foot box in it, and kind of lays over top of you like a blanket, so you can easily stick out your hand or arm to cool off. It has the side tensioners to kind of hold the cold out along the side of your body when you move around, and also has the draft collar up around your neck. You can put two snaps together up around the top so it holds tight around your body. And this is a 20-degree quilt, and compared to the mummy bag was a 35. I've slept in it, the UGQ Bandit, down to 24 degrees, so this is the coldest I've had it so far. And I was plenty warm with the quilt. I felt a little bit of coldness from the coming up from underneath me, but the quilt was plenty warm. Also, I add in a Sea to Summit reactor, which adds about 15 degrees if I'm in cold temperatures. Also, that keeps the bag clean from getting dirty from your sweat and sleeping in it. So it keeps the bag clean so you don't have to wash that down quilt. In the summertime, I'll switch over to a silk liner, and I'll probably go to a lighter quilt or a lighter covering when it gets hot. Also, as you can see, I've added in an inflatable pillow, and that helps quite a bit on the rest. I originally used just my clothes bag that I stuffed in the extra clothes and used as a pillow. Well, that didn't work as good as this inflatable. My inflatable pillow is a Sea Summit. My Nemo Tensor sleeping pad comes with this Vortex pump sack. I really like that. It takes about 3 fills to inflate the pad. You just attach the Vortex connector onto the valve of the pad, blow into the end of the pump sack, and squeeze it down to fill the bag. One thing I didn't like about my Thermarest Nemo Air is you had to blow it up with your mouth, adding moisture into the bag, and it took about 25 breaths of air to inflate that bag. Well, I learned since I bought this tensor bag, this with the pump sack, I tried to put the valve onto the Nemo Air, and it in fact does fit. So if you have a Thermarest product with this same valve end on it, you can get yourself a Nemo Vortex pump sack and install it on the end. It does fit on the valve on the Neo Air Thermarest, and you can inflate it in about 3 fills of the Vortex pump sack, which is great. My final item of my big 3 is the backpack, of course. This is my original Gregory Paragon. It holds 55 liters, weighs about 3 pounds. As I pack it out, I removed the brain to lighten the weight a little bit, so it's about 3 pounds weight. So I changed over to the Gossamer Gear Mariposa. It weighs 1 pound, 14.5 ounces, has a 60-liter volume, and has 2 side pouch pockets on the hip belt, just like the Paragon did. So I'm going to try this Gossamer Gear out on the trail and see how that does. So if you add up all the differences between my 2 setups, from my original setup over to the new setup that I'm going to be using on the Appalachian Trail, I saved about 2 pounds and 3 ounces off of my back carrying this single person tent, lighter sleeping bag, and lighter backpack. I have a little sleeping tip for side sleepers. I was hiking out on the AT last fall, did about 335 miles, and after hiking day after day after day, your muscles get sore in your legs, obviously, and in particular your knees. So as a side sleeper, sleeping on my side, I stack my legs on top of each other, my knees on top of each other, and the sore legs would not be comfortable knee to knee, stacking the knee on top of the knee. So I would take my puffy coat that packs down into its pocket, and I'd make a pillow out of it, a little sort of mini pillow out of it, and I'd use that in between my knees to cushion in between them, and then I could sleep with my knees stacked on top of each other like I normally do. So that worked out much better. Also, that supposedly keeps your spine more in line if you have that spacer in between your knees and your legs. So that's also an additional benefit. Just a little tip that helped me, maybe it might help you. So that's my big three. Thanks for following along. Please subscribe to my channel. I'll be putting out another video of the rest of the gear that'll go in my pack for my thru hike. Thank you.